Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two things. I'd ask to be recorded as a no on Ms. Bavishi, Mr. Coase, and Ms. Petsonk.
Senator Cruz will be so noted as a no on those nominees.
So, Madam Chair, I want to speak briefly about one of the nominees that just received a tie vote, and that is Gigi Sohn. And I would note I also have very significant concerns about Mr. Bedoya that I expressed at his hearing, and I would reiterate those concerns. But for the purpose of this markup, I want to focus on Ms. Sohn. Look, there are a lot of significant substantive concerns with this nominee. I think former Senator Heidkamp's letter is interesting, and I hope at least some Senate Democrats take it to heart. My principal concern with Ms. Sohn is that she has expressed a significant willingness to use government power against political enemies and to use government power as a tool of censorship. And I think the FCC is a particularly dangerous place for a partisan who is willing to try to muzzle those with whom she disagrees. Those issues are significant, and there was a time when there were Democrats willing to speak out in defense of free speech. That time seems to have passed, and I think that is unfortunate. I hope that at least some in the Democratic caucus continue to value free speech and don't want to see government power abused, don't want to see in a subsequent Republican administration a Republican on the FCC silencing Democrat voices. That would be equally inappropriate. It's not the role of government to silence voices with which they disagree. And for those of us who've served some time in this body, we've all learned and seen firsthand the shoe is always on the other foot. And one party may have a majority at one point, one party may have the White House at one point, but with the progression of time, the positions are changed. But not only do we have the substantive concerns with Ms. Sohn, we also have concerns, ethical concerns, and concerns about disclosure to this committee. Ms. Sohn went through her entire confirmation hearing without admitting or disclosing the facts of a rather extraordinary settlement that she signed right in the midst of the process of being nominated. Ms. Sohn joined the board of Locast in March of 2020, almost a year after broadcasters sued Locast for massive copyright infringement. And Ms. Sohn knew that Locast was being sued when she joined the board. She put out a statement supporting Locast at the time the suit was filed. The lawsuit made its way through court on August 31st, 2021. The federal judge ruled against Locast and for the broadcasters. And then on October 28th, 2021, a settlement was filed publicly that stated, quote, plaintiffs, the broadcasters, are awarded statutory damages under the Copyright Act in the amount of $32 million. Now, $32 million is a lot of money. These were the publicly available facts of the Locast agreement, but unbeknownst to the public, a secret settlement agreement had been filed the day before, October 27th, that cut the $32 million down to $700,000, a 98% discount, 2 cents on the dollar. At the exact same time, Ms. Sohn was being vetted and nominated for the FCC. The timing lines up almost perfectly. President Biden announced his intent to nominate her on October 26th. The next day, October 27th, is when the secret settlement was filed. And the day after that is when the White House actually transmitted her nomination. Now, as the chairwoman notes, we had a second hearing for Ms. Sohn on this topic, on the fact that she hadn't disclosed to this committee a secret settlement that raises serious ethical questions. She knew that was the purpose of the hearing. Presumably, she prepared for that hearing. In the course of that hearing, She gave testimony, and in fact, in response to questions from both Senator Thune and from myself about the settlement, Ms. Sohn said that she was, quote, never a party to the litigation, and also, quote, the settlement, first of all, it's important I was not a party to the settlement. So that's what she testified at her second hearing, which she knew was on this topic. Presumably she had prepared for it. Well, in questions for the record that I asked her after the second hearing, I asked about her testimony. Here's what she came back with. I'll read her entire response. I signed the settlement agreement reflecting my voluntary agreement to abide by one paragraph of the settlement agreement, by which I became a party to the settlement. I am not, never was a party to the litigation. To the extent that I said at the hearing I was not a party to the settlement, I misspoke. As a party to the settlement agreement, I was bound by the confidentiality provisions of the agreement. You know, it's an interesting phrasing. To the extent I said at the hearing I was not a party at the settlement. Well, the extent is 100%. And let me read again the quote of what she said. The settlement, first of all, it's important, I was not a party to the settlement. That's exactly what she testified. And even on the second hearing, when she knew there were questions about lack of transparency, she testified falsely before this committee. I think it is a problematic precedent for this committee to move forward a nominee who has serious ethical questions, who has not been candid or transparent with this committee, and even on a subsequent hearing, who testified falsely at that subsequent hearing. And this should be an issue that concerns both Republicans and Democrats, and it should be an issue of ethical standards and transparency that we require of all nominees.